I have some issues with the insert on my table saw. The first being these set screw adjusters. They're difficult to get into adjustment initially and keep in adjustment later. Secondly, it's not a very precise fit in the opening. It's pretty wiggly in there. Third, I don't care much for the large openings on either side of the saw blade. Narrow stock can get caught down in there and either kick back at me or even cause the table saw to stall. And I think you can tell by the reflected light, it's not very flat. It's pretty bumpy and it actually dips down in the middle. I think I can do a better job of making my own table saw inserts. Properly adjusted, the height of my insert is 19/32 of an inch, just under 5/8 of an inch. To match that thickness, I've got 2 pieces of 1/4 inch MDF and 1 piece of 1/8 inch Masonite, and together those are just a hair less than the thickness of the insert, and that's exactly what I want. I've cut these pieces just oversized, and I'm going to start by gluing together the 2 1/4 inch pieces of MDF. With the 2 pieces of MDF glued together, I'm going to rip off one edge of this to square it up and eliminate any glue squeeze out, and then I'll flip it over and rip it to final width, which for me is 3 3/4 of an inch. But I'm going to sneak up on that cut and keep test fitting it until I'm happy with the fit. I'm only using man-made materials in my inserts, MDF and Masonite, because changes in humidity affect expansion and contraction of solid wood like this poplar. If I reuse this for my insert, it's wintertime now. In the summertime, the humidity change would expand the wood and it would get wedged in the opening. To lay out the rounded ends, I'm going to use a compass, and the radius is going to be half of the width. So I've got my compass set for 1 7/8 inches. But before I draw a half circle, I'm going to first find the exact center of the blank by using the compass to draw a couple of lines. Now I'm going to draw a center mark because I'm going to need to measure from this later. Now I can use my compass to lay out the half circle. And I'll cut this over at the bandsaw and then sand it at the disc sander. Now to lay out the other end, I need to figure out where to put this point for the semicircle, and that's pretty simple. It's length of the opening minus the width. So for me that ended up being 9 11/16, and I've already marked that point. I'm not going to use the bandsaw and sander on this end though. I want to show you a different method. I'm going to use the small circle router jig that I showed how to make in another video. Over at the drill press, I'll drill a center hole for the pivot. I've adjusted the small circle router jig so that the edge of the bit just touches the edge of the workpiece. And I've only got the bit exposed about 1/4 of an inch, so I'll make 2 passes, one from either side. The insert plate fits on these 4 tabs, and in trying to fine-tune the insert, I have a problem. I've got the table saw blade down as far as it will go, but the top of the blade is still above the level of those tabs. So the insert rocks on top of the blade. So I need to get some clearance in here for the blade to fit into. I could use a smaller diameter blade like from my circular saw, but those blades are narrower. They have a smaller kerf than the blade I use in my table saw. So I'm going to do this at the router table. I'll measure from the edge of the opening to the center of the saw blade, and I'll transfer that measurement from the fence to the center of a 1/4 inch straight bit. But I don't need to route the entire length of the insert. I only need to route this much. So I've marked the edge of the insert where I want to start and stop the cut. And you may not be able to see this line, but I've squared a line through the center of the bit and marked the table so I know where to start and stop the cut. I also want to drill a 3/4 inch finger hole in it so it doesn't get stuck in the opening. And that looks like the fit I wanted. Now I'll glue the 1/8 inch Masonite on top. With the glue cured, I can remove the clamps. I'll take it over to the router table and use a flush trim bit to trim the Masonite flush with the MDF. But first I think I'll go to the bandsaw and remove some of this excess Masonite so there won't be so much sawdust at the router table. And over at the drill press, I'll re-drill this finger hole. Still about a 32nd of an inch shy of being flush with the tabletop. So I could drill 4 holes and put in set screw adjusters just like the factory insert, but I'm not a fan of those set screw adjusters. So instead I'm going to use hot melt glue. I've already sprayed these 4 tabs with WD-40 so the glue won't stick to those. And I've marked on the insert where to put the glue. And I've got to do this fast. Once I put the glue on here and it hits those cold cast iron tabs, it's almost immediately going to set. And it doesn't take much. And I'll hold that for about a minute. And that's perfect. Now I'll raise the saw blade. And I figured as long as I'm making one, I might as well make several. So now I've got inserts for my thin kerf blade, my regular blade, my dado blade, even my molding head cutter. Guys, thanks for watching.